Hello, sixth graders. Looks like we only have about a week of school left, so congratulations on that. You are on the home stretch. This is the last week that I'll be grading extramath.org, so make sure you do your extra math, get your 6 points in. Even if you haven't been doing it lately, like a few of you haven't, it's really important. You are welcome to keep doing extra math over the summer. The seventh grade teacher will expect you to have good mastery of your math facts, and it will make math a lot easier if you do. So about 8 or 9 of you have already mastered the math facts and finished extra math, but the rest of you keep working on it so that you're ready for seventh grade. Okay, today we get to work on functions. All right. In order to do today's math, you are going to need to remember the rules for adding and subtracting integers. Now, we've done a lot of this, and many of you are very good at it, but it has been a while, so I think a review would not hurt. So, starting with adding integers, all right? There's two types of integers you need to add. The kinds that either have the same sign, the like signs, and the kinds that have unlike signs. And there's different rules for them. If they have the same signs, it's really easy. You just add the absolute value of each integer. In English, that means ignore the signs and add the numbers. Okay? Then use the sign of the integers. They'll both have the same sign because they have like signs. Example, 4 plus 7, which you've been doing since first grade. 4 plus 7 is 11. They're both positive, so it's positive 11. You don't have to put the positive sign, but you're welcome to. Negative 8 plus negative 8, they have like signs. So you just add 8 plus 5, I think I said the wrong number earlier, and that's 13. And since they're both negative, you use the negative sign. So adding integers with the same signs is easy. Gets a little trickier for integers with different signs. Okay? You might remember that instead of adding, we find the difference of the absolute values of the integers. In English, that means you ignore the signs and subtract the numbers. Start with the bigger number because it's easier to subtract that way. Then use the sign of the integer with the greatest absolute value. We always said use the sign of the integer that's farthest from 0. Here's an example. Negative 3 plus 6. They have unlike signs, so you don't add, instead you find the difference. Okay, so I'll do 6 minus 3 equals 3. Then to choose the sign, I figure out which one of these is further from 0. That one's further from 0. It has the positive sign, so the answer is positive 3. Another example, 3 plus negative 8. We're adding integers with unlike signs. So step 1, we find the difference. 8 minus 3 is 5. Now which sign do I use? I look at these two numbers. Which one is further from 0? This one is. It has the negative sign, so the answer is negative 5. So those are rules for adding integers. Subtracting integers. You may recall we said there's only one rule for subtracting integers, and that is don't subtract integers. Instead, add the opposite. So you'll end up following the rules for adding integers that we just reviewed. Okay? So I have 4 examples here. Negative 3 minus 8. Subtracting integers, don't. Instead, add the opposite. So instead of subtracting 8, we're going to add the opposite. Now we follow the rules for adding integers. They have the same sign, so I just add 3 plus 8, and I use the sign that they both have, negative 11. Subtracting negative 3 minus negative 8. Don't. Instead, add the opposite. So now I'm adding integers with unlike signs. So I find the difference. 8 minus 3 is 5. Which one of these is furthest from 0? This one is. So I use the positive sign. I don't subtract integers. Instead, I add the opposite. Now I follow the rules for adding integers with unlike signs. So it means I find the difference. 14 minus 8 is 6. Which sign do I use? Which one of those is furthest from 0? That one is. It's negative, so I use the negative sign. Last example, 8 minus negative 14. I don't subtract integers, so I add the opposite. Now it's just 8 plus 14, which is 22. You've been doing that since first or second grade. Okay? All right, so that's the review of adding and subtracting integers that you'll need to know for today. Let's move into functions, okay? So I've made this cool function machine here. It tells you that the rule is add negative 11. So in other words, whatever you put into the function machine, you do this to it. Add negative 11, and it comes out, in this case, 17. Let's see if that's right. Negative 6. If I add negative 11 to it, it should be negative 17. So clearly I made a mistake on my function machine. It should have said that right there, okay? Because negative 6 plus negative 11 is negative 17. All right, now you can see I need to figure out what these two are. I think this one will be easier because I can just take the 7 and add negative 11 to it, because that's the rule, add negative 11, and that'll get me that answer, okay? So I follow the rules for adding integers with unlike signs, which means I find the difference. So it's going to be 11 minus 7, which is 4. Which one is furthest from 0? This one. So I use the negative sign. So I get negative 4. Now what about this one? I know that my answer is going to be some number plus negative 11 is going to equal negative 14. I got to figure out what this number is. Well, remember, like if you have a simple one, like, 3 plus some number plus 2 equals 8. Well, you probably know already this number is 6, okay? And the way you can do that is to do this number minus this number gives you that number. Same thing here. This number minus this number will give you that number. So that's how I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to do negative 14 minus negative 11 equals the number that I'm looking for, okay? I don't subtract integers. Instead, I add the opposite. Follow the rules for adding integers with unlike signs. So that's going to be 14 minus 11, which is 3. Which one of these is furthest from 0? This one is. So use the negative sign. I put in negative 3. My answer is negative 3. I can check it. I can do negative 3 plus negative 11 and make sure that equals negative 14 to make sure I got the right answer. All right, last one for today. Sometimes they'll give you all these and you just got to figure out what the rule is. So you got to figure out what happens to this to get that. Or what happens to this to get that. Here's my suggestion. Find the easiest one. Which one of these is easiest to figure out? I would come right to this one. I'd go, let's see, 0 plus or minus or some number equals 6. 0 plus 6 equals 6. So in this case, the rule is add 6. Now you want to check it with another one just to be sure. So I'd go, okay, 4. Does 4 plus 6 equal 10? Yes, it does. Does negative 6 plus 6 equal 0? Yes, it does. And you check all these, you know they're right. You can write down the rule is add 6. That is today's work. You've learned about functions. You may begin.